Chris Lynch News. Book your vehicle service online at airparkcanterbury.co.nz.
David Seymour joins me now from the back of his ministerial limousine, I take it. Very nice shot there, David. Are you enjoying the tour of Auckland this morning?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's a great city. Traffic system's actually working because the school runs over. And I got to say, I think, given that Saturday's the shortest day of the year, and then it's just going to get longer and sunnier from there on.
Well, I hope so. Right, well, let's get to some important news. Acting New Zealand Prime Minister David Seymour, and particularly the Christchurch City Council staff, backed by Mayor Phil Major, yesterday publicly rejected your regulatory standards bill, saying it doesn't reflect the Treaty of Waitangi and, quote, may discourage councils and other public agencies from adopting treaty-based or Tikanga-informed approaches. Clearly, Mr Mayor didn't write that himself. What is your response to that?
Huge disappointment, because Phil Major is generally a very sensible guy, but I think it may also show how elected councillors are often bullied by the staff and don't take fully informed positions that they would take if they were thinking clearly with the right information. Let's just unpack what they're saying for a moment. They seem to believe that somehow Parliament being informed about the acts of the executive and councils being informed about the validity of bylaws that are being made in councils is going to somehow affect the treaty. Now, if anything, the treaty requires the Crown and its agents to act responsibly, having to declare what problem you're trying to solve, what effect you're having on people's property rights, how you're going about making a law and why. That kind of transparency, if anything, will uphold the kind of expectations that people had when they signed the treaty, that the kawanatanga or the government would act in a responsible way. So if you were worried about upholding the treaty, you'd probably say this is a good idea. However, it's just incredible what is happening up and down New Zealand, where a group of people who have very little information and haven't chosen to seek information by actually reading the regulatory standards bill have decided that this is the one thing they can campaign against, and they've become completely obsessive.
Doesn't this also point to evidence that really, even though the Mayor Phil Major signs this off, and I haven't spoken to him personally about this, he's not writing this, he's not making decisions, it's the staff, it's the bureaucracy, it's that big machine, unelected people that are making submissions, which isn't that wrong, because they're not the ones elected, regardless whether this is about the Māori issue or not. But this points to the problem with local government, doesn't it? That there's too many staff that are actually advising people based on their ideologies, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't want to be pernickety, but it's actually, to be really specific, the problem is not that they aren't elected. The problem is you can't vote them out. Now, with Phil Major, the mayor, you have the option of voting him out. However, these unelected people, you can't vote them out, and that's the real problem. It's actually something they've got in common with Vladimir Putin. You can't vote him out either, and if the Russian people could, we'd probably have a better world tomorrow. But I digress. Look, the key issue here, and I like Phil Major. I think he's a good guy. I gather he's been a pretty good mayor for Christchurch, so I don't want to jump to conclusions or criticise him, but this would appear to be an example of taking a position that's pretty poorly informed, and you have to wonder if he's not poorly informed because he's wholly reliant on a council bureaucracy that has every incentive not to inform him, because of course one of the things the Regulatory Standards Bill would do is it would require them to justify the restrictions that they put on people's property and the rules that they make that often irritate people.
David, the council also wants the bill to clearly state that it does not apply to local government rules or regulations. Are you comfortable with that, or do you believe the bill should apply to councils as well?
Well, the bill as it's currently drafted does apply to councils. Of course, it could be changed, but I see no reason to change it. the purpose of the Regulatory Standards Bill is to bring transparency to lawmaking so that Kiwis actually have an avenue to fight back against red tape and regulation that drains the joy from our lives. And councils, of course, are some of the worst offenders at making silly rules and applying rules in a silly way. So I see no reason why the Regulatory Standards Bill shouldn't apply to some of the worst offenders. It would be kind of funny to say we're going to get higher standards of regulation, better behaviour from regulators, better rulemaking from central government, but we're prepared to allow councils to keep making bad rules badly enforced that drain the joy from people's lives.
Just a few final other questions. Acting New Zealand Prime Minister, melatonin soon be available over the counter at pharmacies. What prompted that decision?
A lot of feedback from a wide range of people who said, look, it's absurd. In fact, I had a text from someone this morning who said, I'm in Hawaii. As you know, I can buy it here from any pharmacy. And I can bring it back to New Zealand. I can legally bring 3 months' supply of a prescription medicine into New Zealand, no questions asked. I can take it in New Zealand for no issue. But somehow I can't go down to my local pharmacy in Remuera and buy some there unless I have a doctor's prescription, which is just ridiculous. So a lot of feedback like that. If it's legal in other countries, it's actually rated as being less harmful than paracetamol, then why the hell not? And I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves more often is why the hell not? Rather than constantly seeking permission and wondering why we're not allowed to do anything in this country. We're actually a country of, mostly adults. I mean, there's about 1 million children, but the other 4 million of us are adults, and we should be able to live our lives as we choose so long as we're not harming anyone else.
Quite surprised by the news coverage on this and also the drug that's the derivative of magic mushrooms. It's been roundly positive, Mr. Seymour.
Yeah. Well, psilocybin, a lot of people, give in to the temptation to make fun of it because it's also an ingredient in magic mushrooms. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about serious scientific research. It's been approved by the FDA in the United States, and it's very hard to get approval from the FDA. The facts are that there's some really serious people in psychiatry and elsewhere in New Zealand who believe that giving psilocybin to people with really serious so-called untreatable depression can actually treat it. So I guess it's not untreatable. And that's got to be a positive thing because this really deep depression, man, the damage it can do to people is really enormous. And if there is a cure guided by science, then once again, why the hell not?
You have brought back the 3 strikes legislation. What does this legislation actually mean for you? Why do you believe in it so much, and do you genuinely think it'll make New Zealand safer?
Yeah, I do, because there's endless frustration with people who say, look, this person has committed this heinous crime, and yet it almost feels like the sentencing laws that we have in this country are more set up for the sob stories of the person who, may have murdered, assaulted, sexually assaulted. That the offenders almost seem to get more sympathy than the poor people who are the victims. Now, that's just not how it's supposed to work. So what we're saying is, look, your first crime, okay, yep. So who knows what the circumstances behind that are? And the judge should have free rein to, say, look, it's been a tough time. We're going to let you off easier. His second crime, okay, well, fine. The judge can set the sentence, but no parole. And the third crime, no discretion for the judge, maximum sentence, no parole. So we start off with some flexibility, but the people of New Zealand are saying 3 serious sexual or violent offences, I'm going to throw the book at you, and I think that is absolutely the right way to be.
Finally, you've read Jacinda Ardern's book over the weekend, I hear. Be honest.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Look, I probably, maybe get a bit of flack from some people, but I've never been in the I hate Jacinda Ardern, she's an awful, evil person. I've always seen her as, in many ways, a very good person. I just don't think she should have been Prime Minister. And I'm proud of the role that I played in keeping her accountable. And in her book, it seems to say the turning point was when I asked her a question and she called me an arrogant prick. She said that's when she decided to go. But despite not liking her being Prime Minister, I've never been on the bandwagon of hate towards her. And I think basically, if you look at Jacinda Ardern, her basic thesis is that children are innocent. And if we only just took the time to view the world through the eyes of children and make the world a better place through the eyes of children, two things would happen. One, we'd have a much kinder, better world, probably true. And two, if we made the world a better place to grow up as a child, adults would probably be better adjusted and have fewer problems and would be a better society. So all of that I agree with. And I think it's a worthwhile contribution to debate in New Zealand. It's also a very readable book. I mean, she recalls in great detail many aspects of her life and tells the story really well. What's interesting about it is that for all that feeling, there are almost no big facts. There's nothing about the budgets that her government brought down. There's nothing about the debt they took on. There's nothing about the statistics that mostly got worse. Nothing about the inflation or the cost of living crisis that they created with all their borrowing. All of the really big things, and this is why I think great person should never have been Prime Minister, all of the big stuff that's really affected people's lives, the uptick in crime, I mean, that's not mentioned. So it's all about the intentions, which I kind of agree with. Nothing about the outcomes, which is why she should never have been Prime Minister.
Very interesting take, and I see that, of course, she's just finished doing the US talk show speaking circuit, and I thought that was the last we may see of her from YouTube, but the UK speaking circuit has now begun with appearances on that show, Lorraine, and the rest of it is endless. Sadly, my algorithm continues to bring up constant international interviews of Jacinda Ardern, but never mind. Acting New Zealand Prime Minister David Seymour, good to see you, and thanks so much for your time.
Good on you. You have a great day.